So, do you know how, when you're running a community, it becomes harder and harder to find the right knowledge if you are a new member and to find the content you need? If you've been in communities, you know that pain point, especially if it's a big community. Why am I telling you that instead of the usual hello, hello, people, which you got now? I'm doing that because our guest today is the founder of Knobi, a platform that lets you build custom tools unique to your community, thanks to automations and, of course, AI. His name is Cody Crumrine. So, welcome, Cody, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, hi Sebastian. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing? How is your day?
I'm doing well. It's a bright, sunny day here in Pennsylvania, and I've just gotten dug into my morning. So I'm here with my coffee and ready for a great conversation.
Great. Pennsylvania, a place of great news in the past months. We've seen things happen. Listen, tell me more about Nobi. How did you get into basically what is bringing value to communities? What pushed you to do that? And how long have you
Yeah,
been? How long have you had the company for?
company's been around for right on a year now. So we got started last October 2024. There was some inklings of it before that, but that's really when we were founded. So it's a great question how I got into community because that was not what I set out to do, actually. I built Knobi. I had been doing a lot of just freelance consulting and development work in the AI space. My background's in data engineering, so LLMs come along and let us say yes to all these things we used to have to say no to. So that was really fun. And I built Knobi just as a platform to help build custom AI workflows that use business data and make that easier, right? So that's all I was trying to go to market with was a platform for building with AI. My first customer turned out to be a large community, and so we built some of our first, knowledge tools to help users get answers to questions quicker, get connected to other users, things like that. And then I went on trying to just market it as a AI and data tool. Then I got interest from another community tool who said, "Hey, we would really like to roll out stuff like this to our users. Are you interested in a partnership? Can we build something together?" I thought, "Oh, sure." And how neat, another little community use case. But I still kind of thought of that off to the side and kept trying to sell it as a generic AI tool. Didn't get anywhere with that. And then got inbound somebody saying, "Hey, I've got this community that I run, this professional community. I really want a knowledge bot like you built for that other community." And then I finally had to ask myself, "Oh, why is it that this is the only spot where I'm finding traction?" Right. Um, and it turns out there's a lot of things that make an online community a really interesting place to be using AI right now, right? They generally have a ton of valuable information. Conversations, community exchanges are super rich in content and in value, but it's all large, unstructured, hard to work with traditionally, especially once it gets big in its scale. And communities usually have small teams, even really successful, profitable ones. It's probably less than 5 people for the most part. Sometimes maybe just two or three trying to run everything. And so you have this unique space of okay, there is a lot of work to be done at a scale that is too large for a human to keep up with anymore to really get at all of the valuable information that's here. So once I kind of picked up on that trend, I've leaned into the community space, and it's been great. I've really loved being a part of it. I think what I've actually learned is that community, not just for Knobi, not just for AI or development. I mean, community is huge right now for kind of the future of building anything at the moment.
What do you think attracted those people in the first place? Because you were trying to market it as just an AI tool. What about Nobi do you think attracted specifically people with communities?
Yeah. I don't think it was anything about Knobi specifically, because I think what attracted them is the need, and we got connected, and it turned out Knobi had a way to solve it, right? So what people were looking for, is really. a way to address users' needs. And I think that eventually comes down to really addressing retention and churn. But they're not talking like that when we get connected. It's people saying, okay, I have users that ask the same question that got asked 3 months ago. And it's coming up again because, search tools in Slack or in Discord or whatever aren't good and they can't find that information. How I heard you have a way to help them find that information, right? Or hey, users face like a wall of channels when they first join. And it can be hard to get them in and going. And it's getting to a scale where I can't personally greet them and coach them into channels anymore. Or it's, hey, users are posting things and they're not getting answers. They're getting crickets, not because people aren't there who can answer the question, but just because there's, so many posts a day in that channel and theirs gets lost. So we get connected through word of mouth and things, and it turns out, Knobi can solve some of those pain points. We have some specific tools now that we've put out just for those use cases I mentioned. But it's really the trying to keep the community experience good once you've reached scale that's bringing about that kind of desire for a solution. And that's where we're able to come in.
Okay. What is the biggest size community you're currently serving?
Around 6,000 paid members. And I don't know how many free subscribers that community has, but they've gotten quite large.
And where are these communities based, right? Because I am in several communities from Discord to school. So do you only work with Discord, or which platforms, there are like, forget the name of the other platform, starts with P, I think. Don't remember. But yes, where are these communities currently?
So Slack and Discord are by far the most common. Slack was what we first built tools out for. So a lot of Slack conversations right now. But so the idea, so because I built Knobi originally to be this, customizable platform for AI, we are pretty flexible to say, oh, hey, you're on Mighty Networks. They just came out with an API. We can work with them now, or, you're running on a forum. So we really are open to if there's a way, if there's an API or a way we could build to integrate with your platform, we're interested in doing it, we will. But yeah, where I've seen most of that traction is probably Slack and Discord. Those are really popular as community spaces right now.
What do you think of the rise of school? Because school was becoming pretty popular, founded by Sam Ovens, who's just marketing genius. And then it got a boost with Alex Hormozy investing in it. So how do you see it going in the future? What do you think of the platform in general?
It's funny, I have not actually done a lot with school. We don't have a customer using it yet, and I haven't used it myself. I have kind of just paid attention a little bit to the things you're saying as it's risen in popularity. I had an interesting comment. I was talking to somebody else who's been building communities for like a decade, right? And she was talking about, kind of different, you know, experiences she's had, problems she sees, and solutions to them in communities and stuff. Great conversation. And school came up, and she dropped a comment. It was something along the lines of, and then you have these bros that are just making a ton of money on school because school's the Wild West right now. So I don't know exactly how that plays out, but yeah, I think I should probably pay more attention to it because it does seem like that's a platform that's got a lot of excitement and that people are kind of like, I don't know, maybe breaking some molds, trying some new things and moving fast with them.
I think, compared to platforms maybe like Kajabi, that's very professional. I'm not saying that
Mm-hmm.
school is not professional. So I'm saying that there's a level of complexity to Kajabi. And there is a lot of informality to Discord, and there is a lot of more formality to Slack. School sits there as a place where you have a very easy user experience, both as the creator of the community, but especially as the community member. It's very straightforward, quite simple. So I think that's what is rising. Just the user experience is very easy. I am in 3 school communities active,
Mm-hmm.
and in one I'm less active for one thing we'll talk about later. But yes, I think the platform has a lot of potential.
That's cool. What draws you to those communities that you're in?
That's interesting. The first one where I'm the most active is my mentors community. It's a super
Mm,
small group. We are like 12, 15 people. So what drives me there is, the literal sense of community. We engage with each other, one-on-one comments. Every post gets the right attention. We have weekly calls. It feels like a little family. The other one was the knowledge. I'm in this place called the copy thinking community. I think it has over 1,000 members now. It's about copywriting. I'm not a copywriter, but I'm interested in the craft because it helps me with my work to analyze clients and see what are potential weaknesses. And I'm there because, well, the product, as in the knowledge, is top tier. And
mhm.
the community, if you're active, if you're a copywriter or you need copy reviewed, is also top tier. You can put it there, and some of the brightest minds in that field will review it for you. So what keeps me there is the fact that I have a lifetime membership, and every time I want, I can tap into that knowledge when I want to refresh it. Now, here we come to my next point. I read in your on your LinkedIn that a common pain is people saying, "I'm paying for this, but I have no time to use it," and so they quit. I think that if I didn't have a lifetime membership in that community, there's a chance I would have quit because I don't have time to use it. So I really kind of saw myself in that, even though I won't leave that place. So how do you fix that? And how common do you think that is as a pain point?
Yeah, I think I'm learning that it's really common. It got some great engagement in the discussions on there, and that had been brought up to me. There's a customer that we're working on some things specifically to help solve that problem. So I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, they brought it up as well, let me back up. Let me tell you the problem that we're solving, and then we'll get to the why. Because they came to us looking for a way to provide their users with kind of a custom feed. So we already do some things that help with this issue of I don't have enough time at Knobi, right? So we put out, if I could talk about specific tools for a minute, we put out a knowledge bot that lets you ask a question and get uh, answers based on community wisdom. So it's going to go find similar threads to your question. It's going to go find articles that your community's posted, whatever, help you give you a summarized answer and give you some links, right? So that helps with kind of access to knowledge when I know what I'm looking for, right? Um, and that can be big, right? You say you go to this community because the information is so good. So the easier it is for you to go find that information, the less time it takes you, the easier it is to take advantage of that community. But the flip side is, what about the things that I don't know what I want to go search for? I have a general idea of what I want to keep up with and what's important to me in this community. But the only way to do that is just make sure I read all the conversations every day, and there's no way I have time to do that, right? So this customer came to us saying, we want a way to create a custom feed for every one of our members that gives them either a notification or some kind of ability to subscribe to the topics and the things that they care about, right? And so we've started down the path of planning out, how can we do that with Knobi? What's it going to look like? And that's still in progress. So more to come on that in the future. I'm excited, really excited about some things we're doing, but they're not quite ready for prime time yet. But as we're going down that path, I stopped and I said, hey, I just want to make sure that I understand the pain point we're solving here, right? The concern is that these users do not, they see the community as valuable, but they don't have time to keep up with it because there's too much content, right? And she said yes, and in fact, that's the number one reason we hear on exit surveys for why they've canceled their membership is, I'm paying for this, but I don't have time to take advantage of it, so I'm going to cancel and I'll come back when I have time. And of course, nobody ever has time, right? So I share that on LinkedIn. As you mentioned, people have given some great input. And I think what was really interesting is that several folks who have been doing community for a long time chimed in and said, yes, we hear this a lot, but it's usually not actually the problem. When somebody says, I don't have enough time, they mean it's too hard to get what I came for. Or they mean, I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for out of this. I feel like I should join it, but I don't know what I'm getting. Or they mean, um, there's too many barriers to me kind of getting at the meat of what I think I'm paying for here. So that's been really, really interesting to dive into. Yes, I think that's a problem across the board, but I think it is the culmination of a bunch of little problems underneath it around how people really manage to do what they joined their community to do.
Okay. How do you have numbers on how much have you increased, like, let's call it lifetime value or retention of members in communities by implementing Knobi solutions?
I don't. I should. I should be tracking that, but I don't have that to share with you. What I do have is some cool anecdotes of how we've seen our tools kind of affect engagement and activity. So we see in one community we've launched the knowledge bot, where they can ask questions and get answers, and we see users use that around 10 times a day, which is, not an overwhelming amount of usage, but a pretty steady, consistent, oh, people are regularly using this to find information. And then we'll see them reference that. It comes up in conversations. Sometimes people ask a question and say, I tried asking the knowledge bot first and found this, but can somebody tell me this? So we see, oh, okay, this is actually helping them do things and then also engage. I also saw one of my favorite little micro stories recently is we had just deployed our connection spot somewhere, which when somebody, it watches kind of unanswered requests, either questions, asks for help, networking, or whatever. And if they pass too long, like 48 hours or something with no replies, it'll actually go seek out and find someone who might be relevant and might be able to help and kind of invite them to join into the conversation, right? So there was someone who was getting ready for interview at a business college, and she had posted, "Hey, I've got this interview coming up next week. If there are any alumni here, I'd really love just like any advice, any prep, anything that'll help me make a good impression on this interview." And that post went a day, no responses. That post went another day, no responses. And then our bot, picked up the post, it passed the threshold, and it went and found, someone who's posted about graduating from this same school, tagged them, and 20 minutes later, they joined in the conversation and said, "Hey, yes, I graduated from there. I loved my time there. I'd love to talk to you. Here's my Calendly. Let's have a chat." And just seeing things like that, say, okay, here this is. It's this AI tool. It didn't just save a community manager some time, but it connected to human beings too, which is the point of being in community together anyway. And they were able to help each other out.
Here's a great anecdote. The fact that you don't have just a chatbot, but it can connect you to people is pretty powerful, especially because, of course, the chatbot has access to the knowledge. It will not have all the solutions that a community member actually needs. It's just great to save time and for practicality purposes. But if the question is a little bit more deep, it's great that they have that possibility. So what's the biggest challenge you see right now one step before, where do you want to take Knobi? How do you see it in 5 years? Do you want to expand into other fields? Do you want to focus on communities? Do you want to dominate the community market?
Yeah, I want to focus on communities. I've fallen in love with the space in a short amount of time. I think it's the right place to be, And I think we're going to see, we're already seeing them kind of being a hot thing right now. And that's only going to continue. I would love to dominate the community market. I don't think I have to have that kind of saturation to be happy. I'd like to, honestly, my big dreams for Knobi are not massive. I want to grow it to the point where it's sustainable, where we've got a solid customer base and the right staff to care for it and do it well, and we're able to keep on running and keep providing value. We're still in the startup hustle. I'm wearing too many hats and doing unscalable things to try to make it happen. And so far that's going wonderful and going great. But I want to climb that mountain and get to the sustainable peak. And if it never becomes a massive company with funding or anything like that, that's fine, as long as we can do great work in a way that keeps us around and keeps us moving.
Would you consider an exit if, let's say, school were to approach you and they tell you, Cody, we really like your tool. Here's 10 million for you to take home and you give us Knobi. Would you consider that?
I mean, I'd consider that. I would be sad to let go of anything I built. Knobi's my baby, but no. I mean, I've also I've got a family. I've got a life. If you offered me an exit that could be really cause kind of dramatic change, I think I'd be crazy to pass it up. Especially, because what could you do? What could you do next, right? Then if you had that payout, that's exciting to think about. I would probably do whatever I could to try to retain, I don't know if you could retain control in a scenario like that, but at least retain impact and still be a part of it. I'd hate to just see it walk away and be absorbed completely and not have my fingerprints on it anymore. Who knows? Maybe I'll have to accept that someday, but it's not what I'd choose.
There's ways probably to have you still like in the board as an advisor, still involved. It's hard to get rid of our babies because businesses become that in the end.
Yeah.
So what do you think then is the biggest challenge right now between you and getting to that space where you can not say control the industry, but at least grow it to sustainability and it works on its own? What's the biggest challenge there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the biggest challenges is, I think we are in a solution space that is not very well defined. That is, there's not a lot of competitors doing the same thing, right? Now, there's companies out there doing, AI help you do knowledge management and knowledge search and stuff. And there's some companies doing, AI powered moderation in communities or other tools for connecting people in communities. Common Room's coming out with some AI stuff. So I'm not saying we have no competitors. I'm not that naive. But in trying to look at, as I'm learning, the ways that community managers are feeling this pain and looking for solutions, we're not at a point where someone's going out there saying, "Oh, hey, I'm looking for a tool to help my users connect and engage better. I'm looking for a tool to help with better knowledge discovery stuff." It seems to be mostly, I'm looking for techniques, I'm looking for strategies, I'm looking for what I should be doing. And I'm also seeing a lot of like, this is what I've been doing and it's been working, but now we're bigger. So how do I do this at a bigger scale? So really getting in front of the right market and the right users, because they're not already out searching for this, right? And I've made the mistake early on in Knobi and in my career other places. I've made the mistake of going out and just trying to find solutions for a product, right? And you really want to do the opposite. And so now at Knobi, we've been building these products, fit to the solutions people are looking for. I've been having a ton of great conversations and coffee chats, and I'm looking to do more and more of that, even with folks that are not going to end up in a sale or becoming a customer, just to better understand, better learn this space, and how how community managers are experiencing these pains and seeking solutions for them. Because I think that is right now the biggest challenge is figuring out what the right way. It's just, I guess, go to market is what I'm saying. Is the biggest challenge is how do we go from these customers I've gotten by word of mouth and referral to really cracking like, oh, this is the ethos of who's looking for it and how we get in front of them. Um,
I think in my experience working with clients, essentially what you're talking about is to a, to a certain extent a positioning effort. In my experience, there is everything is in your head, right? You probably or everything is in the company as knowledge base. What you need is either to sit down and bring it out or somebody to bring it out so that you can target, because right now what I read here is you have a solution for a problem, but the end user, like your client, perceives that problem in a different way. So your job is talking about it in their words so that they come into your world. And then once they step into your universe, you go, what you're dealing with is actually this, and this is how you fix it. And then you got them. So that's a
yeah,
part I've seen in working across several industries, and it's a common theme.
yeah.
Curiosity here. Yes, go.
Well, and I just yeah, to tack onto that, that's what's been so value. And I've gotten to have some great conversations with folks that have been leading in this space for a decade. Are just way ahead of me in the community landscape, and learning from them. Yeah, just like you say, like how they express these concepts, right? That it's a native language to them and a newer language to me, and it's just been tremendous. So, a quick plug: if you're in community, if you're a community builder, if you're listening, you're out there. I would love a coffee chat just to hear the experience from your side, from your perspective, because that's tremendously valuable to us.
Yes, I mean, I think my mentor was talking about it the other day, that about the fact that the common marketing advice is to not speak in jargon. The truth is that if you speak in the jargon your customers understand, that's all you need. The issue people find is they speak in their jargon, not their jargon or the customer's jargon. And it's in that space that you create all the misunderstandings and the lack of even sales, because the customer just doesn't get it. You need to say in their
Yeah.
words or yours. So yes, community managers, if you are listening to this, please reach out to Cody and have a chat. It's just a talk. Listen, curiosity. You use or you can implement Knobi in a Knobi solution also into Slack, right? And plenty
Yeah.
of corporations and also small businesses and micro business, they use Slack for communication. So would you see Knobi also as an enterprise tool that takes enterprise knowledge that you can access through the Slack, or you can access the information in the company Slack?
I think it certainly could be used that way. We actually do have an early customer who was kind of before the community pivot, that's using it to keep up with other things in Slack, because you can do things, I mean, channel summaries are great for executives who want to keep a pulse on things, searching for information when you've got a lot of different project discussion channels, especially if you've got a really, really large Slack workspace. So I think technically, Knobi could be an enterprise solution for things like that. It's not what I'm going after, for a couple reasons. One, the community ICP is clear to me and it's exciting to me. I've worked in enterprise SaaS for years, and it's not quite as, I think, emotionally fulfilling as helping to build the community space. So there's practical. I want to focus on one thing at a time. Emotionally, I like the community space a lot. And then competitive landscape. I mean, there's a company called Glean. There's a company called Dust.tt. and they are both working on exactly that solution for knowledge management in enterprise. And so, if you come to me and you want to give me business that would compete with them, maybe I'll have to take it, and I can't turn my nose up at it. But really, there's some stellar competitors in that field already, and it's not where I'm looking to go fight.
Yeah, the strategist in me wanted to say exactly that the competitive landscape for knowledge management in corporates is just, I think, since since ChatGPT came out, right? I've seen probably 50 companies just that I know of or heard of developing knowledge management solutions for any sort of enterprise use case. So yes, the
Yeah.
competition there is stellar and probably cutthroat. Very, it's a red ocean. The community space. I love the passion, by the way, that you're into it because you like it. It's also it's also something fresh. We are coming from this era of social media where it was info products and it was people buying courses to now we have this new wave of, it's called social media, but it's like a subset of social media technically, where people don't just need the knowledge, people need the accountability and the company of others as they learn, which I think where the community gives its best value. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I think there's a few things that make it a really interesting time for community right now. And like you said, there's been this, um, huge importance on kind of having an audience over the last years, and I think a lot of that is going to be shifting towards having a community. We're in a time where because of AI, we can build things faster and easier than ever before. So if you've got a product, the barrier to someone competing with you is lower than it's ever been, and so you really need a space to have eyes on something that you're building if you want to sell it. So I think community is hugely important if you're selling software right now. We also are in a time where we've become really consolidated in the top few big social media providers. We've been doing that for a long time. And with the push for everybody to build a brand, and again, with AI making it easier to kind of do that at scale in both good and hyper annoying ways, where I think there's maybe a little bit of retreat from those bigger spaces to the smaller, more tightly knit spaces. And we're also in the middle of a global loneliness epidemic. So there's just a real human need for this kind of connection that maybe isn't taking place in the physical world in the same way that it used to. So it's a really interesting kind of mix of factors right now that make. I'm not saying community is newly important. It's been, I mean, that was some of the first interaction online, right? It was like bulletin boards, but it's becoming important in a really unique and exciting way right now.
Would you say that, I think community was the original goal of the internet, right? That's how I will make this premise. I think that was the original purpose of having the internet, having just a global community. But would you say that the what accelerated this return to the principles was the pandemic? We were isolated for so long that an AI coming along to give us too much information. So information became more of a commodity, and then human interaction became then the sought after thing.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think it's interesting you call it a return. It feels like that to me too. I think there's a good chunk of people for whom it never left, right? The experience is there's always been kind of a core group doing this really. But yeah, there's a wider scale return to that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think pandemic is probably definitely a part of it. Like I said, I think AI and acceleration of content is a part of it. I think probably too that you could do research and dive into the whys beyond here and not run out of room to dig for a while. So, I doubt you and I could put a finger on exactly one or two reasons for it right now. But yeah, it's certainly really interesting.
I find it fascinating that the people who enabled all this tech coders, programmers, developers are the ones that also had community the whole time. If you think GitHub, it's always been
Oh,
the
yeah.
place where there is knowledge exchange, there is community. That's interesting.
Yeah. 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 That's a good point. It's always been a very, yeah, very programmer IT guy thing to be on forums or to be on Discord or whatever. So that's an interesting take.
Would you would you tell me more? Yeah, I have two topics here. Skipping the community.
Okay.
You wrote a post about self-promotion in communities because there was this guy that got banned because somebody needed help and he provided help because he had a video on the topic. And he got banned from a community. I don't remember which. I will name it, even if I wouldn't name it even if I remembered. And he got banned because he helped somebody with his video. How do you see that? Because for example, at least in my mentors community, it's not uncommon that you see people exchanging value, trading services, posting something. Even have posted some free resources in there without consequences. So how do you feel about people? I wouldn't even call it promoting themselves, but how do you feel about self-promotion in communities?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really the quote that got me thinking about this was a lot was a guy that said, you know, you have to give people a healthy way to promote themselves, or they'll do it in unhealthy ways. And I thought that was such a cool take because I see, yeah, like there's communities where, and for good reason, um, people are really sensitive about self promotion. Rules are really tight on it, and anything that smells like promoting myself or my product will get you banned or get you in trouble. And there's others that are looser. Some communities try to solve it, by having like a self promotions channel. Like here's where I share stuff about me, and that's an okay place to do it. Bree Lever, who posts a lot about community, definitely worth a follow on LinkedIn, put out a great guide in her newsletter to like selling in a good way in communities. She breaks out a great framework of like providing value and nurturing connections and giving more than you get so that you are in a position where when somebody's need aligns with your service, you're able to sell and self-promote in a really positive way because you've already contributed a lot and built trust, and the community is getting as much out of you as you're getting out of the community. And that's really great. And so I think the question in my head that I don't have a clear answer for is how do in the community space, how do we make it easier for users to self-promote in those healthy, additive ways, and encourage, not try to discourage self-promotion, but encourage healthy self-promotion in a way that it benefits the members who joined, partially to find, their audience. That's a great reason to be in communities. Your niche audience is in a little bespoke community somewhere. So how do we make it kind of valuable for those members who need to be doing that, and also valuable to the community as a whole?
Yes, I like that. There's no clear answer, right? It's always a balance struggle because you don't want people just pitching in the feed or in a chat for community. But yes, I agree that there needs to be a healthy way to do it. Otherwise, people are going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about the intro bot. I briefly read about it, but then just figured I would ask you because it's interesting. I've been all the communities I've had been into. There's been onboarding calls. There are onboarding documents. Every community has its own thing. Tell me more about the intro bot because I find it like quite a good solution to shorten the time between joining and an intro call or reading an intro document.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Introbot is trying to solve that problem of, I'm new to the community. I don't know where to start, right? The blank slate. There's all these channels and they all have unread messages. Where do I go? How do I get involved? And I've seen a lot of people handle this with, manual onboarding. Let's have a call. Let's talk about your background. Let's get you connected, right? It gets to a point where that is really, really hard to do at scale as you're, getting new users faster. And so anyway, so we built the first version of this intro bot to just look at, most communities will have like a forum or a channel that's just for intros, right? So it'll watch that channel and say, as long as someone provides enough information in their intro, it can look at the other channels, subforums, threads available and say, oh, hey, I think you're going to want to jump in here, right? You've shared that you have this background and these interests, and it turns out we have a channel, just for people from your city. Go check it out. And so it does that. It chimes in, and it's just that easier. Okay, now instead of looking at 30 places that I might want to go start, I'm looking at 3 recommendations to go start. It helps me get involved in a conversation quicker, helps me feel like I'm getting value and I'm part of this community. And now my initial experience, which is so important, has just been that little bit better. And I feel in and belong. What is really interesting about this, I think, is this is there's a lot of talk about what should AI do and not do in communities, right? Because this is a human connection thing. So the first version of this, especially because we're using an LLM for it, and if you ask an LLM to recommend me some channels based on an intro, it's always going to respond with this warm, friendly greeting first, right? That's how these models work. Is they're trying to do the most likely text. And that is not just to say, hey, Sebastian, you might like these channels, but to say, hey, Sebastian, welcome. We're so glad to have you in this community. And we think your background is so cool. And by the way, you might want to check out these channels. So that was kind of how the first version of the bot responded. And we got really negative feedback. It felt fake. It felt like we were trying to replace what a human greeting should be with an AI doing it instead. Really impersonal. People did not like that. So all we did was we changed the way we were handling outputs to cut out the warm greeting and just say, all it says is, hi, Sebastian, based on your intro, here are some channels you might want to check out. And then it gives the channels and the reasons, why they recommend them. And once we made that change, then we're getting reactions. They're like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. How'd you guys make this? All this positive feedback around it. Users are happy to have a dumb tool that is helping them get engaged in the right places. They are not happy to have like a fake community manager fake welcoming them, right? So that's been a big takeaway for us. It's been a useful tool, but also a great learning experience on kind of where users will appreciate AI and where it does not belong.
It's fascinating because it's basically also direct market feedback, meaning it tells you a lot about what people look for in a community and what they don't want. So if people find any sort of attempt to replace other humans, they will reject it. Instead, if they just find a helpful bot, it doesn't matter if it sounds dumb, it just does what it needs to do.
Yep.
Which, leads also back to partly to the topic of self-promotion. I think the heavy self-promotion is a bit dehumanizing to the other members of the community because it gets perceived as this person sees all of us as transactions. Mm-hmm. So it kind of takes away the flavor from being in the community. And comes to mind that a client of mine, he's in a community of 30,000 people. And in just a year, he's been able to enter the Hall of Fame of the community. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. He's always hosting chats with the founder of this massive community, all because he never asked for anything. And the funny thing is, whenever he asks for something, people are more than happy to work with him. So I think the approach is that. Would you agree that the approach is staying human, providing as much value as possible, and becoming an appreciated member of the community, and then people will just flock to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I think just be a positive addition, do great things, do what you're there to do, and it benefits you and the people around you, which is great. We look for things like that in life, right?
Yes, always. Listen, a bunch of the people watching this are gonna be founders and CEOs. So I saw you had a post that you did with, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Tribe AI, something like that, about the trends in enterprise AI adoption. Can you summarize for the people listening, what are the main trends, maybe three you see in enterprise AI adoption and why they matter?
Sure. Three trends. Okay, I'd say number one is that expectations have cooled off a bit, right? We were so shocked with what AI could do originally that we imagined it could do, everything. And execs are pulling back on that a little and asking a little more, well, are we sure, right, that this will work? So expectations are cooling off a little bit. I would say interest is not cooling off. Still lots of excitement, lots of companies that want to adopt and want to try. They're just maybe hedging their bets a little bit more. And so the second trend, which I think kind of results from that, is that adoption is still pretty like broad and shallow right now. There are some companies that are building new products that use AI or custom workflows that use AI. Those are really cool. I've gotten to be involved in some of that through Tribe. But there are many, many more companies who are buying a organization-wide Copilot license, or buying the pro version of a Chat GPT or Claude or whatever, where they have more control over how information is stored. Maybe doing like a company-wide, like that document or knowledge search that we've seen. So there's a lot more. I want to dip my toes in with this kind of broad solution than there is actually build out this like cool, advanced, specific solution. And then I'd say the third trend that I think is really interesting as a tech guy from my side, especially from a data engineering background, is all of the infrastructure so far. I shouldn't say all. There are definitely people who are way ahead of the game and they have their AI stack. That's great. But for the most part, the infrastructure is very ad hoc. And that's, I think, for two big reasons. One is that there again, it's this like small bets, like we don't want to invest too much in something until we know that it's really going to work well. So don't go buy a whole bunch of tech to put around this yet. But two, AI is letting us work with data that we were never able to work with before. This, unstructured, long form, messy, textual data. And that is not been traditionally useful, right? So it's not like CRM data where, of course, there's an API, and of course, my Databricks or Fivetran or whatever has a connector for it, and it's already part of my data pipeline or easy to add to it. These are kind of outside weird things that data teams have not had any reason to work with before. So you can have a company that has a really like well thought out, formed data infrastructure. And yet the data they're moving around for AI is still, well, we've got a Python script that pulls it directly from source and vectorizes it to put it in a database. So I find that really interesting as the tech guy, because I feel like the winner, like people want to know who's the winner in the AI data stack, and we have no idea yet, because it's also just in try it mode.
It's interesting that you mentioned how we did think that AI was going to solve all our issues, and then over time we downsize expectations. Where do you see AI going in the next, say, 2 years? I don't want to keep it too low, too stretched, because this stuff changes too fast. So where do you see it in 2 years?
Man, that is a hard prediction. It's moving so fast. Where do I see AI in 2 years? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and predict that we do get there with autonomous agents, and I could be totally wrong on that. But I think some of the hype comes to fruition, that we've actually got like AI led, do things in the background and just reach out to a human when a decision or approval or an error is encountered, right? I think audio is going to be huge. And I heard that from other people and I did not get it. I was like, okay, maybe like a better Siri. I don't know. Until I checked out Google Notebook LM, and they have that little make a podcast from your stuff feature. And that was so delightful and interesting and weird, like humanizing in all of the cool and maybe problematic ways. I'm convinced AI is going to be sorry, voice um, in AI is going to be huge. And then I'll go ahead and this is maybe a cop out answer, but I think there's still an interface that we haven't landed on yet, right? Like we've got chat as an interface that's exciting. We've got voice as an interface that's cool. Um, but other big technology shifts in the past have brought a new interfaces, new way of interacting with things. I think in yeah, I think within 2 years we're gonna find a new way of interacting with the internet or computers or the world at large that AI has enabled that we didn't imagine before, and it's gonna surprise and delight us.
I love Notebook LM. And as you were talking about voice, the first thing that came to mind was that I fed to Notebook LM one of my YouTube videos, and it produced a 9 video podcast about it, where the speakers were recommending my channel at the beginning and at the end without any prompting. And they did not only did the thing just summarize the video, it added layers of context to it. It added
Yeah,
case studies, and they were right. Like the case studies were correct. I was shocked. That's one of the best use cases I've seen from AI in the since ChatGPT has been out. I was
yeah,
blown away.
yeah. I agree. It has all of that just magic moment, surprise, uh, wonderful. Like it feels like the future. Google nailed it on that for sure.
Yes. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg is right that you know wearable glasses or some version of that is going to replace smartphones because that's an AI enabled product?
Man, I mean, I want it to. I watched sci-fi as a kid, so I can imagine the whole interface being just these floating windows in front of us, and it seems possible. It's one of those things. It's kind of like VR and AR in general. Like we've thought it was there so many times. I remember being a kid and the Nintendo releasing the Virtual Boy, and we were like, "Oh my word, virtual reality's here!" And that thing did terribly. And same thing with like the Google Glass or the Hololens. Like I am at a point where I am really skeptical about AR, as cool as it is, and as much as I like would love to live in that future. I'm in. I've got to see it actually catch on to believe it mode because it's just false started so many times.
I think we just science fiction was supposed to be fiction until we realized that hey, these things were actually real ideas we could implement. So we are all of us are spoiled by the movie realities, Minority Report, and all those kind
Yeah,
of. That's what we expect, and so we place this burden on the companies. Okay, you produce that, so when it's out, we want it to be that. I think Apple seems to have done a great job, but the wearable is just massive. Nobody's going to walk around with that. Unless, I mean, you would look very weird and it's not very socially friendly, socially
yeah,
suitable. But yes, I hope we'll go to that future. But I I am on your same boat. Need to see it because there's been so many attempts at that. And yes, it's gonna take a while, but I do hope we get there.
yeah. I think it's a little too techy still too. I get excited about the glasses, but I get excited about any new technology because that's what I am, what I like, and who I am. My wife doesn't find it that interesting. I don't know, like if it's going to be really game changing technology, right? It's got to be something your mom would use.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's gonna be something your grandpa would use, right? And I have a hard time seeing it go beyond us tech heads that just want to try everything new.
Yes,
But
it's
and unless there's some big changes to it.
like like the smartphone, right? Everybody ended up using it. It's just
Right.
universal.
Yeah.
But one of the last two things. What did you, since we're talking about getting excited about things happening and this, what did you think about the Starship the Starship catch on Sunday?
Yeah, that was really cool. And I hadn't been following the news. I didn't know this was planned or going to happen. And so I just started seeing people post videos of it. And at first I didn't, I thought they were just re-landing one again, like re-landing a rocket like they've done in the past. And then, reading the comments, like, wait a minute, looking at how it is, somebody posted like, just realized this is like a 30-story building being caught with giant chopsticks. It's wild. Yeah, incredibly cool. That's my deep thoughts on it. It's incredibly cool.
Same. I spent the entire day of Sunday nerding out about it with everybody. Probably a bit annoying. I'm a big space nerd, but I just get so excited, right? I grew up watching space shuttles, and I remember clearly the Columbia exploding,
Mm.
and that made me just more fascinated with space technology. Then Elon years ago lands the first Falcon, lands it vertically, but this thing, seeing the Starship booster just getting caught by literally chopsticks, it was extremely cool. That's the perfect wording for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wild.
The
It
future.
makes you wonder, if we can do this now, what are we going to be able to do when you and I are in our 80s, right? I've got no idea.
It's gonna make you want to return to like your 30s and 20s and do those things, right? Because yes, I do want to
Yeah,
do the same. It's going to be an interesting future.
yeah, for sure.
Listen, last question I will ask you before we wrap it up. Do you have any controversial opinions you stand by that you're still willing to share? It can be about the industry, it can be about tech.
Controversial opinions
Yes,
that
stuff
I want to
nobody
stand
agrees
by.
with you on.
um, Boy, I don't know. I'm not a very controversial guy. I'll have to come up with one. I'll tell you what. Here's a controversial opinion that I may turn out to be totally wrong about. Right. So I'm a first time founder building my own company here, and I am placing a large bet on the idea that I can build this successfully at a measured and intentional pace rather than a crazy, hectic, breakneck pace. I've got three young kids, 8, 10, and 12. I love to spend time with them. We love to travel with them. I try to walk away from my laptop around 4 p.m. And a lot of days I come back to it, and because there's still something to be done. But I try to walk away and give it an opening to say, there's time outside these hours. I don't work on Sundays, so that's family time. We take vacations, and there's this idea that like the only way to build a successful company is to live and breathe it day and night and sacrifice anything else in front of it. And I'm making a bet that I can do it without that. Not that it'll be easy or that I could do it casually, but that I could do it measured and intentional. And so, we'll see if time plays out that I'm right in that.
It is controversial because we saw recently all that talk about founder mode,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
which I think is a bunch of bullshit. I think there's many ways of doing business, right? Of course, what we see classic, and I'm not gonna deny that I'm probably part of it. You just end up sacrificing a lot of your life for it. But I do believe that it is possible to build with a family on the side. It is possible to build with boundaries. So I am looking forward to seeing you do it. And listen, we live in a reality, or there is a dude in Texas catching skyscrapers with chopsticks. I don't think building a balanced company is out of the expectations we can have from reality, right?
Yeah, I like that.
It
There you
can be
go.
harder than that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Here, here.
Yes. Listen, anything you want to add, any final thoughts? And after you do that, where can people find out more about you and more about Knobi?
Yeah, I'll just end by saying thanks for having me on. This has been a great conversation. I love talking about this kind of stuff. So if you're listening and you do too, hit me up for a coffee chat, and we'll nerd out about it too. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Crumrine CE, on LinkedIn, and you can find Knobi at knobi.io, knobi.io. And yeah, please find us, hit us up, reach out, and we'll see what we can do for you.
Perfect. I love that close. People, I will not add anything. Go follow him. Send him a message if you're into the community space. It's going to be a very great conversation like this one was. So thank you for taking the time, Cody. I really enjoyed this. And people, this was the Tech of Tomorrow episode number. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not counting them. I plan on going to 1,000 and see what happens. So I will see you next week with another episode. And Cody, thanks again.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.